Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you've been keeping an eye on the markets lately, you've probably noticed something kind of crazy happening. We're talking tech companies suddenly adding literally billions in market cap, right? But here's the wild part. They're doing it without hiring a single new employee. The traditional rules of investing, the actual math that Wall Street has relied on for decades, well, it's fundamentally breaking right now. We are standing right at the edge of this massive economic shift, moving away from systems built entirely on human labor. Today, we're going to look really closely at how artificial intelligence is forcing a complete rewrite of how we value companies.
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand why Wall Street is rewriting its math, we've got to first understand the fundamental difference in the tech itself. Think about it. For years, traditional software has basically just followed strict, pre-programmed rules. It does exactly what a human tells it to do and literally nothing more. Pretty rigid, right? But today's AI agents, totally different ballgame. This is an entirely new reality. These aren't just programs following a script. They're adaptable, autonomous, and completely goal-oriented. They can plan, adapt to new information on the fly, cooperate with other digital agents, and actually achieve specific goals entirely on their own.
And that massive technological leap brings us to a really critical definition, the agentic economy. So, what is it? Basically, this is an economic system where autonomous AI agents perform complex tasks, make decisions, and execute transactions with minimal human intervention. I cannot overstate this. This is a massive paradigm shift. Why? Because historically, stock valuations always depended super heavily on human labor productivity, physical assets, and, standard software licenses. But in the agentic economy, all of that flips. This shift is forcing investors to completely change their focus. Now, they have to look at how effectively a company deploys, scales, and monetizes these autonomous agents to drive revenue, rather than relying on good old-fashioned human labor.
Section 1. Rewriting the valuation math, the new metrics. Let's set up how analysts are actually predicting future cash flows now. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how exactly these financial models are changing. Dense financial concepts like operating margins are being entirely reconstructed right before our eyes. Look at this shift. We're moving from measuring variable human labor expenses to tracking capital investments in AI infrastructure. In the old model, if you wanted to grow, well, you hired more people. In the new model, you invest in servers and agent software. Moving down the list, we no longer just measure human productivity. Instead, we're measuring compute efficiency. That's basically how cost-effectively a company runs its digital agents without just burning through excessive cloud computing resources. And finally, standard software licenses, those are being totally replaced by the ongoing costs of API resource calls. Because every single time an agent thinks or acts, it uses computational power, and that completely changes the fundamental operating margins of a business.
So, to find the most valuable companies in this new economy, analysts are zooming in on a few core factors. First up, the agent autonomy level. Basically, the more independent the agent, the higher the valuation premium. Makes sense, right? Second is proprietary data access. And guys, this one is absolutely huge. Unique data creates these incredible competitive moats that competitors just cannot easily copy. Why? Because agents absolutely need exclusive, high-quality data to train and improve. Third, we've got compute efficiency, which we just touched on. Fourth is integration capabilities, like how seamlessly do these shiny new agents actually connect with clunky legacy systems? And fifth, customer retention. Can these agent-delivered services keep revenue just as stable and sticky as those old traditional software subscriptions did? Section 2, the valuation change process, updating the models. Let's look at how an equity research analyst actually updates their math in the real world. All right, let's move from theory to practice. Imagine a real-world scenario where a company decides to swap its entire Tier 1 customer service department for servers running autonomous agents. Sounds crazy, but it's happening. How does Wall Street actually value that? Well, they follow these exact 5 steps. Step 1, data gathering. The analyst figures out exactly how much cash the company is dropping on compute resources and agent developers. Step 2, labor substitution mapping. They identify the exact human departments that are being replaced by agents. Step 3, cost curve projection. They calculate how fast the cost of running these specific agents is going to drop over the next, say, 3 to 5 years. Step 4, margin reconstruction. This is where the absolute magic happens. They recalculate future profit margins based on all those vanishing human labor costs. And finally, step 5, premium application. The market looks at this company scaling its revenue without adding a single physical desk or human employee, and bam, they award it a massive financial multiplier. That exact process right there is how a company delivers a sudden, massive earnings surprise. Section 3, the market impact chain, the ripple effect.
So, how does this mechanical math actually ripple across the broader stock market? Let's move to and see how this builds, because this doesn't just stop with a single company's earnings report. It creates this massive six-step chain reaction across the entire market. It all starts at step 1, with widespread agent deployment into a company's core workflows. Because these agents work 24 hours a day on repetitive tasks, step 2 immediately kicks in: immediate cost reduction. That savings flows directly into step 3, margin expansion, which then triggers step 4, those massive earnings surprises that completely blow past conservative Wall Street estimates. Now that forces step 5, where you've got analysts scrambling to do valuation model revisions, upgrading their target prices left and right, and finally, the big one, step 6, capital reallocation. This is where institutional investors literally dump the shares of slow-adapting companies and pour all that money straight into these high-efficiency, agent-driven stocks. Section 4. Real-world practical implications. This massive capital reallocation has immediate stakes, depending on your exact role in the market today. Here's the bottom line on what you need to take away from this, depending on who you are. If you're a corporate exec, you absolutely must clearly disclose your AI strategy, your compute expenditures, and your productivity gains in your financial reports, or trust me, your stock price is going to suffer. Now, if you're a financial analyst, you can't just rely on historical financial statements anymore. You literally have to learn how to audit a company's software architecture and its data assets. For the retail investors watching this explainer, listen up. You need to look way beyond simple earnings ratios. That is, unless you want your portfolio managed into the ground by a competitor's bot. You've got to evaluate whether a business model you're investing in is vulnerable to being completely replaced by autonomous agents. And finally, for the technology providers out there, the ones selling the chips, the infrastructure, the agent-building platforms, you are the primary enablers of this whole shift, and you're perfectly positioned to reap some exceptionally high valuation premiums. Section 5. The reality check. Hidden agentic risks. Okay, time to bring the hype back down to earth for a second. Before we go declaring this some flawless, utopian market, we seriously need a reality check. We have to look at the severe limitations that could totally burst these high-flying valuations. The crucial point is, while the upside is huge, the risks are equally immense. First up, overestimation of cost savings. Investors might just be way too optimistic about how fast humans can actually be safely replaced, and that leads to wildly inflated stock prices. Second is rapid obsolescence. Think about it. A highly valuable agentic platform today could become entirely obsolete literally overnight, just because a foundational AI model gets a sudden update. Third, liability and error risks. If an autonomous agent makes a costly financial or legal mistake totally on its own, the reputational damage and the lawsuits could crash a stock price in hours. Fourth, we've got regulatory intervention. Governments might just step in and say, whoa, we need to protect human jobs. And fifth, data depletion. If a company just runs out of fresh, high-quality data to train its agents, its productivity stalls completely, dead in the water. Which brings us to our final thought. Imagine a scenario where governments introduce strict regulations and actually heavily tax AI labor to protect human workers. Right at the exact moment investors realize companies totally overestimated their cost savings. If that happens, we really have to ask, is the agentic economy a sustainable, permanent paradigm shift in how we value human versus artificial output? Or are we just witnessing Wall Street's next great bubble? It's a fascinating tension between human value and AI efficiency, and it is definitely something every single investor is going to have to navigate in the years to come. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep your eyes on the markets.